Let me ask you something. When was the last time you found yourself replaying a problem in your head over and over until it drained your energy, your focus, and your hope? Maybe it was about your job, your finances, relationships, or maybe it was that quiet, nagging voice that says, what if it all falls apart? We've all been there. And here's the hard truth. Most people never escape that loop. They spend their lives dissecting problems, pointing fingers, and telling the same story about why life isn't fair. And while they're busy explaining why they can't, there's someone else out there, same world, same economy, same challenges, who is already creating the solution, already building the life they want. The difference, it's not intelligence, it's not luck, it's not even resources, it's focus. Because what you focus on, you feel, and what you feel, you act on. If you focus on the problem, you feed fear, doubt, frustration. If you focus on the solution, you feed creativity, courage, and progress. This is not just a motivational slogan, it's a life skill that will determine whether you keep surviving or start thriving. Today, I'm going to show you how to break the habit of problem thinking and train your mind to find solutions faster, take action sooner, and turn challenges into momentum. If you're tired of feeling stuck, if you want to shift from stress to strategy, excuses to execution, then stay with me. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the exact mental tools to stop letting problems run your life and start running your life towards solutions. You see, the way you think determines the way you live. Every single moment your brain is scanning the world, searching for patterns, interpreting meaning, deciding what matters. And here's the reality, whatever you focus on expands. If you focus on what's wrong, it will grow in your mind like weeds in an untended garden. If you focus on what's possible, it creates room for new ideas, new energy, new outcomes to take root. Most people are stuck in a loop they don't even realize exists. They wake up and immediately rehearse their problems, the bills they have to pay, the person who wronged them, the goal they didn't achieve last year. They replay these mental movies so many times they become the only channel they know how to watch. And the more they focus on the problem, the heavier it feels. Why? Because your mind is a magnifying glass. It doesn't just observe, it intensifies. If all you feed it is, what's wrong, you're going to feel trapped in a box that doesn't even have a door. Shifting your mindset isn't just about thinking positive. That's not enough. This isn't about ignoring reality. It's about training your brain to use reality. The problem is there, yes. But the difference between staying stuck and moving forward is deciding to place the majority of your mental energy on the outcome you want, not the obstacle you fear. That shift changes everything. Think about it. Every breakthrough in history, whether it was a medical discovery, a business transformation, or a personal triumph, came because someone refused to let the problem be the final word. They didn't deny the challenge, they acknowledged it, but then they asked, what can I do about it right now? They put their emotional and mental energy into finding the leverage points that would create change. They shifted from dwelling to doing. You focus on what's wrong, your body responds with tension, your creativity shuts down, your thinking narrows. You start seeing only the reasons why you can't. But when you focus on what's possible, you open the door to solutions that were invisible to you before. Your brain starts searching for connections, options, and ideas. Your energy changes. You move from heavy to light, from frozen to in motion. I want you to imagine for a second that you're holding a flashlight in the middle of a pitch black forest. Wherever you point that light, that's what you see. If you keep pointing it at the thorns, the mud, and the dead branches, that's all you'll experience. But if you point it toward the path, toward the opening between the trees, suddenly you can see where to place your next step. The forest hasn't changed. You have. Your focus is the flashlight. The direction you point it determines the direction you move. This is why I tell people your first job in any challenge is not to solve the problem. It's to control your focus. Because if you let the problem dominate your focus, dominate your decisions, and then it will dominate your life. You can't create a solution from the same state of mind that created the problem. You've got to rise above it, and you do that by asking yourself, what's the outcome I want? What's one thing I can do right now to move toward it? Some people hear this and think, that sounds nice, but you don't understand my situation. Let me tell you something. I've met people who've lost everything, their businesses, their families, their health, and I've seen two different responses. One person spends the next 10 years telling the story of how life did them wrong. The other person feels the pain, acknowledges it, but then asks, what's the next move? Same loss, different focus. And because of that focus, they get a different life. It's not about pretending things are easy. It's about refusing to give the problem more power than it deserves. Problems are inevitable. Suffering is optional. The option to suffer comes from where you put your attention. If you can shift your mind from this is the end to this is the beginning of something new, you instantly change your emotional state. And when your emotional state changes, your capacity for action changes with it. Your brain has a built-in survival mechanism called the reticular activating system. It filters what you notice based on what you believe is important. If you believe the problem is all there is, brain will keep feeding you evidence to prove it right. But if you believe there's a way forward, your brain will start hunting for it. It's like when you decide you want to buy a certain car and suddenly you see it everywhere. That card didn't just appear. You tuned your focus to notice it. The same thing happens with opportunities, solutions, and resources. They've been around you the whole time. You just weren't tuned in. So here's the truth. The problems in your life aren't what's holding you back. It's the way you've been looking at them. The moment you decide to stop asking, why me? And start asking, how can I? Is the moment you start creating momentum. Then momentum is everything. You can't steer a parked car, but once you get it rolling, you can direct it anywhere you want to go. I'm telling you this because I've seen what happens when someone takes back control of their focus. Their face changes. Their posture changes. They start speaking differently. They start attracting different people, different ideas, different opportunities. It's not magic. It's the natural result of a mind that's aimed toward what's possible instead of what's wrong. Here's the beautiful part. You don't have to have the whole solution figured out to shift your focus. You don't need the full plan. You just need to take that first mental step. Ask a better question. For one thing you can do today that moves you even slightly closer to what you want. Because once you taste progress, even in small doses, it builds confidence. And confidence fuels action. Action fuels results. And results fuel belief. It's a cycle. But you get to choose whether it's a cycle of limitation or a cycle of possibility. The truth is, life will give you as many reasons to complain as it will to create. The difference lies in which you choose to feed. Every time you choose to focus on the solution instead of the problem, you're not just solving that one situation, you're rewiring your brain for resilience. You're building the habit of progress, becoming the kind of person who doesn't just survive challenges, but uses them as raw material for something better. The moment that becomes your default setting, when the first instinct is, what's the next move? Instead of why me? That's when you stop feeling like life is happening to you and start realizing life is happening for you. That's when everything changes. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you're having a conversation in your own head. That conversation shapes your decisions, your emotions, and your outcomes. The problem is, most people don't even realize they're asking the wrong questions, and wrong questions always lead to wrong answers. If you ask, does this always happen to me? Your brain will gladly find reasons to prove you're unlucky, unworthy, or stuck. If you ask, who's to blame for this? Your brain will make a list. And none of those answers will change your reality. Questions are like mental GPS coordinates. They tell your brain where to go. If you enter the wrong destination, it doesn't matter how good your vehicle is, you're going to end up in the wrong place. When you ask empowering questions, questions that are solution-oriented, you direct your focus toward progress. And as we've already talked about, focus is everything. In every challenge, you can either spiral into disempowering questions or you can start asking ones that pull you forward. The moment you shift from, why is this happening? To how can I use this? You start to unlock your own resourcefulness. Brain is a problem-solving machine. It loves a good challenge, but you have to feed it the right prompts. It's like a computer. The quality of the output depends on the quality of the input. Garbage in, garbage out. Empowering question in, empowering answer out. When something goes wrong, most people get stuck in analysis of the past, how it happened, who caused it, how unfair it is. But the past is already written. You can't rewrite it. The only thing you can influence is what happens next. That's why the best questions start with words like how and what. How can I turn this around? What's one step I can take right now? What resources do I already have that I'm not using? These questions point your brain toward the future, action toward possibility. It's the same reason great leaders, innovators, and achievers seem to make progress even when everything is stacked against them. It's not that their circumstances are magically easier. It's that they refuse to get trapped in the wrong questions. Instead of, why is this so hard? They're asking, it's the hidden opportunity here. Instead of, what if I fail? They're asking, what needs to be true for me to succeed? That shift changes not only the way they think, but the way they feel. And when your emotions change, capacity to act expands. Think about the last time you were stuck on something. Maybe it was a business challenge. Maybe it was a personal relationship. Maybe it was a health goal you couldn't seem to reach. Now be honest, what kinds of questions were you asking yourself in that moment? Were they questions that made you feel powerless or questions that gave you options? Because here's the truth. When you ask questions that trap you, you feel trapped. You ask questions that give you choices, you feel free. And here's something else. Questions don't just guide your own mind, they influence the minds of everyone around you. If you're a leader, a parent, a partner, or a friend, the questions you ask shape the thinking of the people you care about. If you walk into a meeting and ask, why aren't we hitting our numbers? You're going to get a list of excuses. But if you walk in and ask, what's the fastest way we can turn this around? You're going to get strategies, same group of people, same situation, different question, completely different results. When you start practicing this, you'll notice something incredible. Your brain starts answering before you even finish asking. That's because your mind has been trained for years to search for patterns. And once it recognizes the kind of patterns you want, we'll start finding them faster. It's like tuning a radio station. At first, they're static, but the more you fine tune, the clearer the signal gets. Before long, you won't even think about it. you'll naturally start asking the questions that lead to solutions. Some of you might be thinking, that sounds great. What if I don't know the answer to the question I'm asking? That's the beauty of it. You don't have to. The act of asking the question forces your brain to search. And when you keep asking and keep moving, you'll uncover answers you never would have seen standing still. The right question creates momentum, and momentum is often more important than certainty. Here's the catch. You have to be intentional about this. It's not going to happen automatically at first because most of us have years of conditioning to focus on blame, fear, or limitation. So start small. The next time you catch yourself asking a disempowering question, stop and reframe it. If you hear yourself thinking, why do I always mess this up? Shift it to, what can I do differently next time to get the result I want? If you catch yourself thinking, won't they change? Shift it to, how can I influence them in a way they'll respond to? That little pivot is where transformation begins. And the more you do this, the more you'll start to see life differently. Challenges that used to feel overwhelming will start to feel like puzzles you can solve. Situations that once drained you will start to energize you because now you're not just reacting, you're creating. That's the difference between being at the mercy of life and being the author of your life. There's a story I heard about a man whose business collapsed overnight. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? He asked, can I learn from this that will make me stronger next time? That one question led him to completely redesign his approach. And within 2 years, he built something twice as successful as before. The loss could have been the end of his story, but the question became the turning point. This is the power you have right now. You can choose to ask questions that drag you into the past or questions that pull you into the future. And once you realize that, you stop feeling like you're waiting for life to change. You start changing it yourself. Because the truth is, the answers you're looking for are already out there. The resources, the ideas, the opportunities, they exist. The only thing missing is the question that will lead you to them. So if you want a better life, start by asking better questions. Because every solution you'll ever find begins with the question you choose to ask. Most people think problems are the enemy. They see them as unfair interruptions, roadblocks meant to stop them from moving forward. But here's the truth. Problems are the raw material for your growth. Without them, you stay the same. Without them, you never develop the mental toughness, the creativity, or the resourcefulness you're capable of. The challenges you face are not punishments, they're invitations, opportunities for to rise to a higher level of thinking, feeling, and acting. If you think about the moments in your life when you grew the most, they probably weren't the easy times. They weren't the moments when everything was going your way, when life felt comfortable and predictable. Growth doesn't live in comfort. It lives in the moments when you're pushed, when you're stretched, when you're forced to tap into a part of yourself you didn't even know was there. Comfort can make you complacent, but challenge wakes you up. When you face a problem, you have a choice. You can see it as an obstacle, or you can see it as a training partner. And like any good training partner, it's not there to destroy you, it's there to make you stronger. If you go to the gym and lift the same tiny weights every time, you'll never get stronger. Your muscles only grow when you put them under stress, when you challenge them to handle more than they could before. Life works the same way. The problems you face are like resistance for your character, your discipline, your vision. If you avoid them, you avoid the growth they bring. The thing is, most people waste their energy wishing the problem wasn't there instead of using the problem to get better. They complain about the weight instead of lifting it. They spend more time telling the story of the challenge than they do working toward the solution. And in doing so, they miss the gift hidden inside the struggle. Because make no mistake, every challenge has a gift inside it. It might be disguised as frustration, as uncertainty, as loss, but if you're willing to look deeper, you'll find something that can elevate you. Sometimes the gift is a skill you never would have learned without the pressure of the challenge. Sometimes it's a strength you never would have discovered in yourself. Sometimes it's the clarity to see what truly matters to you. And sometimes it's simply the realization that you can endure more than you thought. Whatever it is, that gift becomes part of you, you carry it forward, and it shapes how you meet the next challenge. I've seen people completely transform because of a problem they once thought would break them. I've watched someone go through financial devastation only to emerge with a level of financial intelligence they never would have developed otherwise. I've seen someone lose their job and end up starting a business they were passionate about, something they never would have pursued if they hadn't been pushed. I've seen people come out of heartbreak with a deeper understanding of love boundaries and self-worth than they ever had before. These are not just stories of survival, they're stories of transformation. But transformation doesn't happen automatically. It happens when you decide to look at the problem differently. It happens when you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this here to teach me? How can I grow through this? That's the moment the problem stops being something happening to you and starts being something happening for you. Think about this. When you work out, the soreness you feel the next day isn't a sign you're getting weaker. It's a sign you've challenged yourself enough to grow. In the same way, the discomfort you feel when facing a problem is often a sign that you're expanding your capacity. You're stretching your limits. You're developing resilience. And that resilience will serve you long after the problem is gone. Now, does that mean the challenge will feel good in the moment? Absolutely not. Growth is uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. Discomfort is not the same as danger. Discomfort is simply the signal that you're in the space where growth happens. If you can learn to lean into it instead of running from it, you'll find that what once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable. You shift your perspective this way, something powerful happens. You stop fearing problems. You stop wasting energy resisting them. And instead, you start using them. You start mining them for insights, for skills, for strength. You turn them into stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. And that changes everything, because now life can't throw anything at you that you can't use. Even in the toughest situations, there's something you can take with you. Problem may strip away your comfort, your security, or even some of your plans, but it can't take away your ability to grow unless you give that up yourself. That's the one thing you always control. And once you own that, you become unstoppable, because no matter what happens, you know you can turn it into fuel. I want you to imagine for a moment that every problem in your life is a teacher. Some of those teachers are gentle, some are harsh, some push you harder than you'd like, but all of them are here to prepare you for the next level of your life. When you see problems that way, you don't avoid the classroom, you show up, you take notes, you pass the test, then you're ready for more. This is the mindset that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. It's not about avoiding problems. It's about learning from them so completely that the next time you face something similar, you already have the strength, the skill, and the confidence to handle it. And over time, you start to realize something incredible. The bigger the problem, the bigger the potential for growth. So instead of fearing the weight, thank it. Instead of resenting the resistance, embrace it, because the very thing you think is holding you back may be the thing that's preparing you for the breakthrough you've been waiting for. And when you use challenges this way, you stop being defined by the problems in your life. You start being defined by the person you become because of them. One of the biggest traps people fall into when they face a challenge is waiting. They wait for the perfect timing, the perfect information, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions. And while they're waiting, the problem grows, opportunities pass, and their confidence erodes. The truth is, perfection is an illusion. There will never be a moment when you have all the answers lined up neatly, risks, no uncertainties. Life doesn't work that way. Progress belongs to the people who are willing to move forward, even when things are messy, uncertain, and incomplete. You have to understand, momentum is a powerful force. Once you're moving, you can adjust, pivot, and refine along the way. But if you're standing still, you can't steer anything. It's like trying to turn a parked car. You can crank the wheel all day, but until you get the car moving, you're going nowhere. That's why the most important step you can take in any situation is the first one, no matter how small it seems. That step is what breaks the inertia. It's what tells your brain, we're doing this. And that signal changes everything. The problem is, most people are afraid of making the wrong move. They're so afraid of failing that they do nothing. But here's the irony, doing nothing is the fastest way to fail. Action is how you get feedback. Action is how you find out what works and what doesn't. You can think about a plan for months, but until you test it in the real world, it's just theory. And theory doesn't change your life. Execution does. Think about how you learned anything important in your life. You didn't figure it all out in advance. You took a step, you made mistakes, you learned, you adjusted. Walking, talking, riding a bike. None of these things came with perfect preparation. You learned by doing. And the same principle applies to solving problems. You move, you learn, you adapt, you move again. That's the cycle that creates progress. When you commit to forward motion, you stop being paralyzed by the idea of the right decision. You realize there's no single perfect choice. There's the choice you make and the way you commit to making it work. If it turns out to be the wrong move, you change direction. You're still further ahead than if you had stayed frozen, waiting for the universe to give you a sign. There's another powerful thing that happens when you take action. You build confidence. People think confidence comes first, that you need to feel ready before you start. But the truth is, confidence is a byproduct of action. You do something, you see progress, and that progress fuels belief in yourself. The more you act, certain you become that you can handle whatever comes next. Waiting for confidence before you act is like waiting to feel strong before you start working out. It doesn't work that way. Strength comes from the reps. Sometimes the step you take won't even feel like it's making a big difference, but small steps compound. They stack on top of each other, and before you know it, you've built momentum that carries you further than you imagined. I've seen people who felt completely lost, unsure where to start, decide to take one small action day toward their goal. In the beginning, it felt almost pointless, but a few weeks later, they were in a totally different place, not because they had it all figured out, but because they refused to stay still. And here's the thing, motion creates clarity. People think they need clarity before they can move, but often clarity only comes once you're already in motion. You can't see the whole road from the starting line. You take a few steps and the next section of the path appears. That's why sitting around waiting to see the whole picture is so dangerous. You'll never see it until you start walking. This is also why you can't let fear dictate your pace. Fear will always tell you to slow down, to wait, to play it safe. Fear isn't a sign you should stop. It's a sign you're in territory that matters. Nobody feels fear about things that don't matter. Fear means you care, and it means you're stepping outside the boundaries of what's familiar. That's exactly where growth and solutions live. So instead of trying to eliminate fear, focus on moving with it. Take the step anyway. The truth is, the fear you feel before you take action is always bigger than the fear you feel after. Once you start moving, fear starts losing its grip because your focus shifts from, what if this goes wrong, to, what's my next move? Action crowds out fear because it puts you in problem-solving mode instead of problem-worrying mode. Another trap people fall into is comparing their first step to someone else's 100th step. They see someone far ahead in their journey and feel like they can't start until they're at that same level. That's a recipe for paralysis. You can't compare your starting point to someone else's finish line. You have to focus on your own path, your own pace. Every expert was once a beginner who took the first step without having it all figured out. You adopt the mindset that movement matters more than perfection. You become unstoppable. You stop obsessing over whether every move is flawless and start valuing the fact that you're moving at all. Because the reality is, success is rarely the result of one perfect decision. It's the cumulative result of hundreds of imperfect ones, adjusted and refined along the way. And here's something else. Action creates opportunities that don't exist when you're standing still. You're moving, you meet people, you stumble across ideas, you encounter unexpected openings. You can't plan for all of these in advance. They only appear because you're in the game, because you're in motion. I've seen doors open for people simply because they decided to knock, and they never would have even known the door was there if they'd stayed on the sidelines. So if you're facing a challenge right now and you're waiting for the perfect answer before you start, I'm telling you, stop waiting. Look for the best step you can take today, even if it's small, even if it feels incomplete. Then take it. Tomorrow, take another. And the day after that, another. Because the magic isn't in the perfect plan. It's in the relentless forward motion that builds into something unstoppable. And once you commit to moving, you'll realize the perfect moment you were waiting for was never coming because it's been here all along, disguised as now.